Welcome to part two of this week's news episode. In part one, we covered the deep dive section where we dive deeper into specific topics from this week's AI news. So if you missed that, go back and watch that. And in this segment, we are going to only cover the rapid fire items, lots of small pieces of news that you still need to be aware of. So let's get started. And now to some rapid fire items. The first one I'm very excited about. Google just announced WebGemma, which is two models in two different levels, 27 billion parameters and a 4 billion parameter, that is expanding the capabilities of AI in healthcare. And they're doing this as part of the Health AI Developer Foundation, or HAI-DEF. And these two models that they just released, MedGemma 27B and its 4B little brother, are scoring very, very high on MedQA benchmark, 87.7%, which is higher than most models today and significantly higher than any models at that size. Both these models are open source, which means healthcare organizations can run them locally without exposing the data to anywhere else. They're both small enough to run on a mobile device, meaning a doctor can actually use them on the fly, on the work, without having to be in a lab in order to deliver healthcare in a very effective way. They are really, really good at processing complex medical images such as x-rays and going through long, complex health records, combining them with research data and trying to find what kind of illnesses people have and what kind of solutions can be applied. They are stating that it is not for broad audience use, at least not yet, meaning your ability to take this and take a picture of a rash you have in your hand and having it tell you what it is, or something else, and asking it whether you have cancer, or getting a second opinion on a x-ray or a mammogram that you have received. But I think those days are just around the corner, meaning having a medical capable AI in your back pocket, literally, that will be able to assess what you have, or at least give you a second opinion about what you have, is coming, and it's coming very, very fast. And it has very significant implications on the medical and healthcare field. And again, the fact that it's open source and that it protects the data because you can run it locally at the healthcare organization or even on your phone is very useful in this particular field. And so I see a very big future, and that's why I wanted to mention that as the first rapid fire item of the day. Staying on the open source announcements, OpenAI is set to launch its first open weight language model since GPT-2, which was in 2019, sometime this coming week. So within a few days, we should get OpenAI's first open source model that is actually worth something. They've announced it a while back that they're planning to do this, then they've delayed it twice, but it seems to be coming out in the next few days. It is going to be available, well, everywhere open source models are available, on Azure for Microsoft for sure, then on Hugging Face and probably other cloud providers. And it's described by them as similar to O3 Mini, meaning a very capable reasoning AI model that has advanced reasoning capabilities that is aligned with some of the most advanced models in the world today as open source. This is a significant transition from everything OpenAI has delivered to us recently. They said they will not release their frontier model. So again, combine that with the fact they will probably going to release GPT-5 in the near future, then this will be behind, but it's still going to be a highly capable reasoning model that is available as open source from OpenAI that is definitely considered one of the leaders in the space. This also puts another burden, or hits another crack in their relationship with Microsoft. And the reason for that is right now, Microsoft gets a 20% revenue share every time people use OpenAI's ChatGPT or API revenue that is running on Azure. And most of OpenAI is currently running on Azure, other than the new relationship that they have with Oracle that is mostly not online yet. It's being built and it's going to be developed over time. And so having an open source model that you can download from wherever and run it locally on any servers that you want, instead of paying OpenAI and 20% out of that to Microsoft by running it on Azure, is going to take away revenue from Microsoft. So beyond the technical implications of having this model, it is also going to impact their relationship with Microsoft that is already on shaky grounds. Now, the model already exists. OpenAI has been demoing it and letting developers and researchers play with it for a while, actively getting feedback and refining it. But as I mentioned, we're supposed to get the model available to everyone within the next few days. Some interesting news from Apple. Apple revealed that the Chief Operating Officer, Jeff Williams, will be stepping down from his role as CEO. Now, they're claiming that this passing of the baton to the Senior Vice President of Operations, Sabine Khan, has been planned for a very long time as part of a succession plan. But it's definitely happening at a time where Google is not doing great from an AI perspective. There's been lots of turmoil, lots of changes in leadership, and they still don't have anything to write home about when it comes to their AI capabilities, which leads us to more news related to them potentially buying Perplexity. So we talked about this last week, and we talked about these rumors for a while, but it seems to be that these meetings started actually happening. So Apple's mergers and acquisition people had meetings with the leadership of Perplexity. The numbers are talking about a $14 billion valuation, which would be Apple's largest deal ever, surpassing the $3 billion deal they paid for Beats headsets in 2014. And it is very clearly showing that Apple is struggling and they don't have a short-term solution. So acquisition makes a lot of sense, especially when you combine that with the Department of Justice ruling that is supposed to detach them from Google's deal of being the primary search provider for them. So right now, Google is paying Apple $20 billion a year to be the default search engine on Safari. And one of the DOJ's rulings was that that has to stop in order to make it more competitive, and being able to use Perplexity as the search engine on Apple devices makes perfect sense. Now, those of you who don't know Perplexity, Perplexity was founded in 2022 by several ex-OpenAI and Meta engineers led by Arvind Srinivas, and they became known for providing AI-based search capabilities. That's how they started. It was unique, and it was refreshing, and it was a huge value because it was the first company to provide that way before you could search the web on any of the other platforms. I must admit that right now, they're providing a lot less value in my mind compared to what they did when they got started, because right now you can search the web on Grok, and you can search the web on Claude, and you can search the web on OpenAI, and you can get similar results to what you're getting from Perplexity. I still use Perplexity every now and then for searches, especially when I'm looking for solutions for different technical problems. I find that it provides me very useful information. It is really good at finding relevant YouTube videos, and I believe it does it right now better than the other tools, but I was definitely using it significantly more when I just started using it about a year or maybe a year and a half ago. But I'm definitely using it a lot less than I was using it when it just got out, when there were no other options. So I think this might be a great deal for Perplexity. I don't know if they have the means to stay competitive in the current market. So from them, it makes perfect sense. I do not understand how it makes sense to Apple. And I'll explain why. Perplexity do not develop their own models. They're not a frontier model company. They use other models that you can actually pick on your own, and they have their own defaults if you don't change it, to run their search queries and provide you with the distilled information. From Apple's perspective, it means that if they're going to buy Perplexity, yes, they will have access to a capable AI search solution, which is awesome, and they definitely need that, but it will keep them dependent on Gemini or Grok or Claude or ChatGPT, which I don't think is something Apple wants. I would assume that Apple, as being one of the most innovative companies of the 21st century, they would want to have a model that they own and that they control and that they have full access to, and not being dependent on, some cases, their competitors in order to run their business. And so to me, it would have made a lot more sense if Apple would have went to try to buy Anthropic with its Claude model. So this would have been significantly more expensive, obviously. Anthropic is valued at $61.5 billion, or at least they were in the latest round in March of this year, meaning there's going to be a premium on top of that as well. So that is more than 4x the money that they're going to pay for Perplexity if the deal moves forward. But Apple has $156 billion in liquid assets, and their market cap is over $3.1 trillion. So does it make sense to take 1/3 or even 1/2 of your liquid assets in order to protect $3.1 trillion in market cap? I would say it's a no-brainer. Now, again, I don't get to make these decisions. I'm actually really happy I don't have to make these decisions. I don't know if Anthropic want to sell their business to Apple, but I think it makes a lot of sense to me. So why do I think Apple is going after Perplexity? First of all, I think it's a very quick fix. I think it's a deal that they can close relatively fast because of what I said before, that I believe that Perplexity will be more competitive if they are a part of Apple. That's after Meta was trying to buy them and failed. This is why they're in serious negotiations for potentially being the search solution in every Samsung phones. So there is definitely interest around Perplexity, and I think Apple just wants to snatch them before somebody else does. And it's not a huge investment, so I think that's why they're doing it. Are they doing it just to buy time? Maybe. Is that time in order to then maybe later on buy Anthropic? Maybe. Is it enough time for them to go and develop their own models? Maybe, but I doubt that because they haven't been very successful in doing that so far, even just for replacing Siri. But I will definitely keep you posted how that story evolves. Now, some MCP news. On July 8th, Microsoft announced the preview release of MCP support on Azure AI Foundry Agent Service. So those of you who don't know what MCP is, MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, which is completely not important to remember. But what is important is that it enables existing pieces of software, whether it's data sets or tools, to provide a very simple, easy, and standard interface to an AI platform. So if you think about, let's take a big example like Salesforce, there are, I don't know, maybe millions of companies who use Salesforce in the world. So in theory, every single company would have hired developers, or if they have one, use their developers to connect their AI capabilities into Salesforce. What MCP enables to do is it enables Salesforce or a third party to develop an MCP server that on the back end connects to the entire API of Salesforce, basically has access to everything you can access in Salesforce. And on the other hand, with a few lines of code, can connect in a standard way to any AI tool. This makes it a AI USB connector for any software on the planet, which is extremely powerful, and it makes perfect sense that every platform will have this connectivity. There's a lot of connectivity for that. Obviously, in Claude, you can do it in a weird way, but you can do it in ChatGPT as well. And now on Azure AI Foundry, which is their platform for hosting and developing and running all their AI solutions, are going to support that as well. And in addition to that access, they are promising, obviously, that this service will have robust security in order to make sure that everybody who is running on Azure will have their data secure while enabling it to connect to various MCP servers, which basically means that for whatever your company has, whether it's data or any other tools that you're using that are hosted on Azure, your company can develop an MCP connection that will allow it to seamlessly connect to any AI solution that you have very, very easily, which is obviously very powerful. And this is going to be the standard moving forward for more or less any other platform. We'll go back to MCPs in a minute, but staying on the Microsoft topic, Microsoft announced that they saved over $500 million in 2024 by leveraging AI across different departments, and a lot of it comes from its call centers. So Microsoft Chief Commercial Officer Judson Althoff revealed that AI is enhancing productivity across sales, customer service, and software engineering, that AI is currently contributing 35% of new product code. Now, this sounds all great, other than the fact that when you combine this with the fact that they let go over 15,000 employees this year, 9,000 just this month, maybe it's not the best time to make these kind of announcements. The reality is very, very obvious. AI is now handling many interactions with many clients for Microsoft and for other companies as well, making the need for call center agents and developers less and less attractive. Now, combine that with the fact that Microsoft is planning an $80 billion investment in infrastructure for AI this year. These 500 million seems like a very, very small amount, but they will definitely squeeze everything they can out of the AI in order to get savings in other places. And sadly, a big chunk of these other places is letting employees go. And on another example that relates to AI and Microsoft not being sensitive to what is currently happening, Matt Turnbull, who is an executive producer at Microsoft Xbox Game Studios, which has seen a significant part of the recent layoffs, suggested that laid-off workers should use AI tools like ChatGPT or Copilot for emotional support and career planning. Basically, what he was saying is the tool that got you fired can help you move forward in life. And what he's basically saying is saying, yeah, we used AI in order to replace you. Now you should use AI in order to potentially get back in the game. Now, I must admit that despite the backlash, I think he's actually right. I think the best thing that people can do right now, whether they have a job or do not have a job, is to learn how to use AI in the most effective way, because while it doesn't guarantee that you're going to keep your job, it dramatically increases your chances, especially when you're going to be compared with your colleagues that do have advanced AI skills. And so I don't agree with the tone. I understand the backlash and why people think that there's really bad taste in the way it was put out, but I do think he has a serious point when it comes to what you need to invest in right now in order to increase the chances of having a successful career. And to tell you how serious Microsoft is about AI, for all the right reason in this particular case, on an internal memo that was just released, mandates AI tool usage and knowledge for all employees with performance evaluations factoring AI proficiency. That basically says that if you don't know how to use AI tools effectively in your line of business, you will lose your job, because that becomes a part of the formal evaluation of how you execute as an employee of Microsoft. And I want you to think about it for a minute. I think this will be the norm, and I'll say something more extreme. I think this should be the norm in most companies around the world. Just like you expect people to know how to search the web, just like you expect people to know how to use Microsoft Office, you should expect people to know how to use AI at this point. We're not in 2023 anymore. We're not in 2024 anymore. We're in the middle of 2025. And so as a company, you need to invest in training of your people, continuous training, high quality training to every employee of your company to know how to use these tools. But then you also need to be in charge of evaluating that people are actually using it and using it properly and knowing how to benefit from it, or your company will fall behind. What does that mean? It means if you're in leadership position in your company and you are not doing this right now, you do not have solid plan on how to train your employees, on how to train your leadership, on how to train your board, on what are the implications of AI and how to use it effectively, you will fall behind. If you want to know how to do this, please reach out to me. There's a link to book time with me on the show notes of this podcast, or just find me on LinkedIn and connect with me, and I can share with you how to do this with me, how to do this through other organizations, what are your options for training, but don't stay behind. If you are an employee of a company that does not offer that, my suggestion is come and join our August course, because it will give you the frameworks and the knowledge and the skills on how to actually use AI effectively so you can either become the rock star of your company or at least not lose your job or potentially be able to grow your career in other places because you now have knowledge that is highly sought after by more and more organizations. But Microsoft just made it mandatory, and I think that's where everybody will go relatively quickly. And switching from Microsoft to their number one AI partner, OpenAI, and connecting to the topic from the past 2 weeks of poaching top talent between different companies. And this time, OpenAI is the company that is doing the poaching. They just hired 4 elite engineers. Some of them were still employed at Meta, and some of them are ex-employees of xAI and Tesla. 2 of them, Uday Raduraju and Mike Dalton, were 2 of the people who were participating in building the xAI Colossus supercomputer that has over 200,000 GPUs that we talked about earlier, that was built at a rapid speed that nobody thought is possible. So these 2 are joining, plus 2 other leading engineers, and they're going to be joining OpenAI's scaling team. What does that tell you? It tells you that OpenAI is definitely looking to scale, which makes sense. We know that they're building new data centers, which we know that because of their partnership with Oracle and SoftBank. And so they're hiring people who will be able to make that a reality even faster. And it also tells us that going after top talent and being able to pay top dollars for the top talent is not going to stop anytime soon. Next topic that we're going to touch that we talked about a lot recently is education. And we're going to start with actually good news on that topic. OpenAI, Microsoft, and Anthropic are partnering with the American Foundations of Teachers, AFT, to fund a $23 million National Academy for AI Instructions. And their goal is to train over 400,000 K-12 educators by 2030. Now, the Academy is supposed to open this fall in Manhattan, and it's focusing on equipping teachers on how to use AI ethically and effectively in the classroom. And the approach in this particular case is not replacing the teachers, but actually empowering the teachers to use AI effectively. AFT's president said, "This is about keeping teachers at the center, ensuring AI works for them, not instead of them." The curriculum of this institution was co-developed by AI experts together with educators, and it covers prompt engineering, lesson planning, ethical AI usage, and so on and so forth. The idea is, again, to empower teachers to use AI effectively in their day-to-day. A survey that was done by OpenAI shows that 60% of teachers already use AI tools. I must admit, I was surprised with the number. I would have assumed it's lower than that based on the people that I'm talking to, but I'm looking at a much smaller data set than OpenAI are looking at with that survey. But I said that time and time again on this podcast. I think AI presents the biggest opportunity that the education system had in decades. We are currently teaching the same way we were teaching in the last 100 years or maybe more, and we have an opportunity now to allow AI to create personalized learning paths for each individual and at their speed, at the way they learn the best, and addressing their shortcomings in specific topics while elevating the teachers to become mentors and educators instead of being right now babysitters, or if you want worse, right now most teachers in the public system are tutors for standard testing. That's what they do. They teach the kids how to pass the standard test, which is horrible. I think the teachers hate that. I think the system is really broken this way. And I think allowing teachers to help kids become better people in the future by being, again, mentors and educators versus standard test tutors, while allowing the AI to do a lot of the personalized training, will lead to significantly better results. And I'm really hoping that's the direction that it is going to go. Now, in higher education, the story is dramatically different. A survey was just released by the UK Higher Education Policy Institution, and they revealed that 92% of college students are now using AI tools. That basically means everybody. I don't know who the other 8% are, but that's more or less every student. That's up from 66% last year. So that's a big jump, which now basically means that they're all using it. Now, faculty are also increasingly using it across the board, anything from planning lessons all the way to grading papers, which has its own shortcomings and problems, because if you are not grading the papers, how do you actually know how your students are doing and what you should teach them? And if you're completely outsourcing that to the AI, I think you lose your connection to what your students are actually learning from what you are teaching them. There are a lot of complaints by students that are saying that their teachers are teaching them using AI and grading them using AI. So why do they need the teachers? Why do they need to pay so much money for their education? And I think they are right. I think we will have to find a new balance on how this actually works. This will require disassembling and reassembling the education system as we know it, but I think it's a must, and I think it will happen in the next few years. I think the current model will not be sufficient in order to support an AI future that is coming, and it's coming very fast. Staying on the topic of learning with AI, OpenAI quietly is rolling out what they're calling a study together mode that has been spotted by several different users on ChatGPT Plus accounts. Now, this hasn't been rolled out, it hasn't even been announced, but it's been showing up at the app tools for ChatGPT for multiple users that have shared that on X and other locations. And the nice thing about it is, instead of providing answers, it's using more of a Socratic approach where it's going to ask you, the learner, questions and providing you mini quizzes and guides in order to help you actually study and learn on your own, including timers and games and other aspects that will help you learn better and develop your own thinking capabilities. I must admit that I've been doing this with my kids for a while now and teaching them how to use ChatGPT and other tools in order to develop learning capabilities. I've developed a math training game together with my 10-year-old son. So we developed the game together and he's playing it in order to teach himself math. And so that is a very obvious right move forward. I'm very curious to see how OpenAI is going to release this. Is it going to be a separate product? Is it going to be built into ChatGPT? Who is going to get access to that? And some of the speculations that have been floating around that it might enable virtual study rooms where multiple people can study together with the AI, which will make it even more interesting because it will allow the human engagement part of learning to happen together with an AI tutor that can help facilitate or accelerate or support the process. Again, I think AI has a huge opportunity when it comes to education, and I'm looking forward to see how that evolves. That's it for this week. We will be back on Tuesday with the fourth and final segment of the Ultimate AI Showdown, which is going to compare AI tools for video creation. If you are enjoying this podcast, I would really appreciate if you rank us on your favorite podcasting platform, whether you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Please open your app right now and give us a review so we can know what you think about the podcast. Connect with me on LinkedIn. That always is helpful. And share this with your friends. There's other people that you know that can benefit from this. So if you have your phone accessible right now, please share it with them. And while you're at it, if you want to connect with me about the course, or if you just want to check out the course, just check out the link in the show notes and have an amazing rest of your weekend. I will see you back on Tuesday.